Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are watching episodes 347 and 348 of Bleach. So we feel like we're really getting into some of the core parts of this part of the arc. We don't really have a clear adversary yet, and I feel like maybe that's not the point of this season. I feel like it's a little bit more character based. We spent a lot of time, dealing with Aizen and all of that stuff, and there being an actual person for us to be mad about or scared of and stuff like that. So I feel like this season kind of isn't the point. Maybe Book Guy is the villain. He did, attack Ishida, which I will not forgive him for, but I mean, I probably did. I will say it happened off screen, so it's a little bit vague. I am making an assumption on that one, but maybe him. He seems a little bit sinister, but for the main part, it doesn't seem like that's really the point of this season. It's really more about Ichigo and his struggles with the fact that he doesn't have spiritual abilities anymore, and he just doesn't know what's going on most of the time. His friends are deliberately keeping information from him because they don't want to involve him, make him worried, that kind of a thing. But at the same time, he feels like he's being pushed out. It's, everyone in his life basically has some kind of connection to spiritual abilities and stuff like that, to the point where even some of his friends just in high school also have a certain awareness of it. They knew that he was a soul reaper before. It's one of those things where he's kind of the only human who's just a human and doesn't know that there's hollows and spirits and stuff. He doesn't know when they're around. He knows of them, but he can't sense them anymore. So he really has no idea what to do now. So I feel really the kind of adversary of this season is more about Ichigo having to deal with the fact that he isn't the hero anymore. And we did get a hint about a new magical system, a new part of the magic system of this kind of manipulating the soul of objects, the energy of objects that we saw with Ginjo. We saw a little bit of it with Book Guy, whose name I just don't know yet, but we know that Ginjo and his group have this ability. They're just humans who have a connection with hollows, but they're humans who have this ability and they want to give it to Ichigo. So it looks like we're setting up for him to have some kind of new ability to pull from. I don't really know how that'll turn out. He doesn't seem interested in it at the moment. He talked about how he isn't interested in getting his abilities back. He just wants to protect his friends and know what's going on. And I think that that's true. It's like I said during the reaction, I think that if his friends weren't being attacked, Ichigo would find a way to deal with the fact that he doesn't have abilities anymore. I feel like maybe he would be unhappy for a little while. He obviously was at the beginning of the season before anything happened. We had a time jump and he was still kind of dealing with it, but I feel like he would have adjusted. Whereas now the only reason he's very aware of the fact that he doesn't have his soul reaper abilities anymore is because his friends are being attacked and there's nothing he can do about it, and people are keeping information from him. The one time when Asano and Muzui, I can never remember his name, but the sassy one, they were both attacked at walking home from school, and they kept that from him. They didn't tell him. So he doesn't even know if some of his friends are in danger half of the time. So I feel like that's where his frustration is. So him saying I want you to answer my questions. I don't need to have some kind of ability. I don't need to get my powers back to the way that they used to be. So I feel like Ichigo is still kind of trying to figure out how he fits into the dynamic now. I don't really know how that'll develop, but in a good way. I like the mystery element of it. I like that there's a bit of a different atmosphere to this season. There's a different tone to it. It feels more grown up in a way, and I think that that really reflects the fact that we did have a time jump and we are dealing with these characters after they've dealt with a lot of stuff. They've been through a lot. They're not 15-year-olds who don't know anything about hollows and don't know what's going on. So I feel like we're getting into kind of some more darker personal themes as opposed to
hollows are bad and we should fight them.
It's a little bit more complex now. So I do think that this will develop in ways that I don't fully understand. We don't know what's going on with Ishin. I think it probably has something to do with Urahara because we haven't really seen what he's been up to, but I'm assuming there's something involved with some kind of mystery about what's going on. I feel like if there are people who are like using this spirit manipulation thing in Ichigo's hometown, Urahara probably knows something about it. So there's just like a lot of elements that I'm kind of waiting for them to all fit together. I mean, we need to find out why Sado is connected to Ginjo in some way. We know that his ability is probably connected to what Ginjo has because Sendo and Orihime have always had kind of a weird outlier ability. It didn't really fit with anything. So there's just like a lot of pieces right now that are being presented and haven't really started to come together, which makes sense. We're at the beginning of the season, but I'm very excited for where this is going. I love a good mystery story, so it's definitely up my street. But let's just get into episode 347. In 3, 2, 1, go. I still feel like this is a weird opener choice. Just saying. Like, not that it's a bad song, not that it's a bad opener in and of itself, but like tonally, it feels really weird compared to what the show actually seems to be. Am I reading too much into it? Even like aesthetically, it doesn't really fit with what the season looks like the arc. At least not at this point. I do like the callback to a bunch of the artwork for the different episodes though. But that's what I'm saying, like I think like on its own it's like a perfectly good opener. And I don't have anything against it in that sense, but like it feels weird compared to what the episode actually is. I like that they gave Ichigo orange juice though, because he is still underage. Yeah, you should probably let him process what just went down, so. Do you know something about what's going on though? Okay, but like what's Sato's connection though? I really want to know Sato's connection. I feel like maybe I missed it. Just then I feel like maybe they gave us some kind of hint about it. Like, does that have something to do with Seto's ability that he's trying to figure out? Or is it like that he needs Ichigo for? Because he seemed legitimately shocked to see Ichigo, so I don't know if he knew that they were going to approach Ichigo, and if so, why didn't they just use Seto instead of Ginjo? Like, why have the bag snatching incident when you could just have sent Seto, who knows Ichigo, to go talk to him? It just seems a little convoluted. Uh-oh. Is he like starting to become a hollow? Did he just like escalate him turning into a hollow? Because that's kind of messed up. This better be for like research purposes and not because you think he's attractive, because he's a teenager, so I don't know how old she is, but still, stalking someone you think is attractive is never a good thing. Just saying. Movies? To keep him entertained? Really? Because wouldn't it be easier to just have her heal you? I'm just saying. Yes, can we address the weird presence around Ichigo as well? Okay, but like if he wants to still go, like if his instinct is let me go fight this hollow, why doesn't he let Orihime heal him? He says he has his reason, so I'm assuming that there is one. Are we not gonna touch on that? Are we getting attacked by a hollow? Because he's not gonna be able to sense it or see it. I have a bad feeling. I'm assuming the hollow thing was connected to book guy turning that soul into a hollow. I mean, you can say you don't like clinging to the past, but you always come back to the river, and stuff kind of gets disheveled in your life. I mean, you should definitely think about it. Like, maybe talk to somebody about it. I feel like a lot of things could be resolved at the moment if people talk to each other more. I don't believe that. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be mad about it. Is there a hollow again? Because the lights were flickering, and then before they were like, it was almost like the hollow was walking on the electrical wires. Seriously though, why doesn't he take Sendo with him? Sendo and Ichigo are literally friends. Like, if you needed a way of explaining your cause, I'm assuming Sendo has a reason. If he needs Ichigo's help, Ichigo would help him. See? There we go. Y'all should have a conversation. Look at Sendo being the person who has to initiate a conversation. Like, that's how closed off people are being. Yeah, they were gonna protect each other, look out for each other. It's true. I feel like Ichigo feels like because he doesn't have his powers, it means that he doesn't, like, he can't protect people. Whereas, like, before he got his powers, he, like, still thought of himself as being capable of that. Whereas, like, now he's just, like, given up on it. And he's, like, trying to be okay with that, even though it goes against, like, his fundamental nature. But, like, not the conversation I wanted them to have. Sado, why are you in the group? What's important? I mean, fair enough. If they're not the only people who, like, have this ability, they're probably not the only people who know how to revert back to human. And I'm assuming people who are, like, half human, half Soul Reaper are pretty rare. So it's not unthinkable that someone else would be interested in him for the same reason. I feel like be suspicious though, Ichigo, because, like, where is he leading you and why? Because there's no way he just walks past you in the street because he doesn't want to manipulate you in some way. So, like, what's the goal? See, I feel like he wanted to corral both of them together. Because having, like, Ichigo himself in danger, that's one thing. Having his sister in danger makes him, like, 10 times more desperate. I feel like that whole sequence was just to lead Ichigo to Yuzu, to bring the two of them together, giving Ichigo motivation, right? Oh, it must be so, like, difficult though to not really be able to see it. Are we sensing it now? Are we able to? Into some capacity? Like by relying on senses other than sight? Or are you conveniently around? I mean, probably because they were talking about how someone else is interested in Ichigo. And he's like, well, dang, probably Ichigo needs somebody, like, watching over his house because if somebody else is around. they might not have the best intentions. Or at least they want to have like contact with Ichigo before someone else like swoops in and takes their plan from them. What's the point of him having a handle in the blade of his sword? Just seems like a weird design. Like from a practical level. Fair enough. I mean, can't ignore the importance of that statement because that's just what Ichigo went through. Like if he accepts the power offered to him, then he could have protected Yuzu, right? He's here because he wants to protect, yeah. Which I think Ginjo knows because like that's why he said what he did. I'd like to see the determined look though. I feel like I don't know. My brain's like trying to process things. I just I mean, is the badge thing that he gave Ichigo the one that he had in the first episode? Or Ichigo's? Because he did have one at the beginning before Ichigo threw it away. Hmm. My brain's like, there are a few things that I'm just like, I don't know. We'll process. We'll debrief after. What's the pig? I'm assuming we're going to be learning about like their abilities and stuff. So it is Ichigo's. So what happened to the one he already had? I don't know if like maybe I'm in a bit of a like cynical mindset or something, but I feel like there are a couple of things that I don't quite compute in my brain. And maybe that's just because like we're not far enough, like we're still kind of setting up this arc that perhaps I'm expecting too much to kind of like fit into place for my understanding. But I want to know why Seto is part of Ginjo's group. Like, I want to know what he's getting out of it. I feel like that's the big thing for me, because everyone else is interested in Ichigo because they want to get rid of their power and go back to being human. Short and simple. Seto, does he want to get rid of his power? He hasn't shown any interest in that up to this point. And his power is like similar, like it's implied that he has some kind of similarity with what Ginjo and the rest of the group has, but it is like different. It looks different, it functions differently. It's definitely something that like affects him, like his physical body, as opposed to him like controlling objects and stuff like that. Like it does seem to be different from what we've seen so far. Even if he has the same motivation, like let's say his power does work the exact same way, has the same kind of concept where like if it is put into like a vessel of someone who is half Soul Reaper, half human, that he can go back to being human. Let's say that that is in fact the case, which I have my doubts about that being how it would function. But if it does, like at what point has Seto decided that he doesn't want his powers anymore? Like, you see where I'm coming from? Like he's never been of the mindset that like he doesn't want it. Like when he got his powers, it was because he wanted to be more powerful. Like that's why the Hogyaku gave that to him. So I don't know, like, so like maybe he's just getting like knowledge, understanding, like he's just trying to understand his powers more. Maybe he's just trying to investigate what exactly is happening. Like maybe he's connected to what's going on with Ishin and like Ishida's dad, who also seems to know something about it. Like maybe he's just like getting close to this group of people to try and understand. But like he seemed very shocked to see Ichigo, which I don't know if he knew that they were going after Ichigo. That seems to be their main goal. So like he just like his shock seems a little bit off if he has been part of this group for a little while, because I feel like he would have known that that was their reason for being around. They have a connection to Seto, who's friends with Ichigo. Why the whole thing with the bag being stolen with Ginjo to like have an excuse to interact with Ichigo? Like why not just send Seto, who obviously has some sympathy for their whole operation and is friends with Ichigo? Like am I like thinking about this too hard? Am I being too critical of this? Like maybe I'm focusing in on it because Seto's like my favorite character and like I don't know, I notice things about him more than other people maybe, or like do I legitimately have some kind of basis for this? Because I feel like I do. I feel like I'm confused about whether or not that was supposed to be like Seto's part of it, like the shock value of it. And I also like I don't understand why when Seto was like, let's have a conversation, I was like, great, yes, finally someone just talking about things that are going on, because that's like one of the main issues that we're having right now is like characters aren't sharing information with Ichigo, so he's like becoming desperate and frustrated and it's kind of escalating the things that he's going through in terms of like feeling isolated and powerless and stuff. So it's like, yes, somebody talk to Ichigo, especially Seto, who can kind of like put some perspective on what exactly this group is and like what Ichigo can expect if like he does agree to like help them out. And then instead he's just like, remember when we promised to take care of each other? And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And he's like, well, you've given up on fighting, which is a key point like Ichigo thinks that like because he is like literally powerless in terms of like not having his powers anymore, that he is like powerless in general, like he can't actually protect anyone, and because of that he's just like given up on that. Like he just doesn't see himself as somebody who can like run in and protect people, and he's like acting as if he's okay with that, but we know he isn't, because even before he was a Soul Reaper that was like a thing that he did all the time. Like that's how he met Seto and like they became friends and stuff. Like that was before the Soul Reaper thing. So like I get that being a point that Seto is making, but like that's not the conversation they should have been having. Like Seto should have been like, hey, so like awkward, like, you know, me having a connection to this like Ginjo guy, you know, kind of shady, you know, he's a little bit suspicious and stuff, and like, you know, here's kind of the lowdown of what I know what's going on, like maybe. And like why isn't like Ichigo like, hey, so missing school to like be with this like random group of people who suddenly showed up and now like people are getting hurt. Like, did you know that Ishida's in the hospital? Were you gonna come see him? We're gonna finish school? Ichigo's just like walking away from it. I feel like maybe I'm getting like too worked up about this, but I feel like because people aren't talking, I'm getting into that like mindset that I get when I'm watching like drama shows, and I just get frustrated because nobody talks to each other, and I'm just like, just speak about what's going on to each other and stop like pretending that you don't know how to communicate. Like we haven't been friends for the entirety of this show leading up to this point. I feel like this episode didn't answer any of the questions that I want, and it was just like, and it was a long way of getting Ichigo to the point where he was agreeing to be part of this group. It felt like an oddly long, like unnecessarily long lead up to Ichigo just like coming back and being like, yes. I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of it, but I'm trying to think of something positive to turn this around. I do still love the show. I feel like that's my nervous thing where I'm like, I'm being really critical of it in this moment, but I'm still invested. I feel like I'm critical because I'm invested. I wouldn't be this passionate if I didn't care. I don't know, let's just get into episode 348? I can't remember what episodes I'm watching. Let's just get into episode 348 and maybe some of my questions will be answered about the weirdness that's going on. If nothing else, I feel like we're going to learn something about the abilities and like specifically how they function for all of these new characters that have shown up. So let's just get into that. In 3, 2, 1, go. Oof. Sorry. Distracted by floof on my mic. I'm legitimately interested in learning more about the abilities, though. Because I know that we got like a general description of like how they work in terms of like what exactly is happening. But like as we saw with kind of like the description of this is what a Zanpakuto is with like soul reapers, like you can understand that it's a weapon that has like a spirit soul entity within it, and you know has like a couple of different releases and stuff that like power it up. You can kind of like see the basic description of it, but like each person's Zanpakuto is like its own distinct style to it, which contributes to like the way that they fight. So I'm very interested to see like how each of these characters have their own distinct way of fighting, because obviously Ginjo has like the sword that comes from his necklace, but I'm assuming that the other characters have different ways of using their particular style of fighting that fits with like their personality and who they are. And if Ichigo develops an ability, it's going to be, you know, distinct to who he is too. I did like the little story at the after the ender that was just like the weirdness of how Ginjo got that back for Ichigo. Are we waiting for Ichigo to come home? Mm-hmm. They're both worried about him. They're just expressing it in their own way. Is it because he like legitimately seems like himself? Like it's not like he's acting anymore? Because he isn't putting himself in that spot where he's like, I can't help people, I can't protect people. Like that's not who I am anymore. And is instead like back into the frame of mind of I'm going to be able to protect people again because that's just like who he is, right? I like the background music too. I'm assuming these two don't get along. Is that their shtick? She is a little obsessed with people not being her equals, isn't she? Me, though. I would always have like headphones on, just like going about my life, and then people would just like come up and try to like talk to me, and I'd be like, what part of me having headphones on makes you think that I want to have a conversation with a random person? Does her power have something to do with the box? He does not seem impressed. So is hers connected to the box? So like Ginjo's is the necklace, hers is the dollhouse? Interesting. Who will he be training with? Oh, the pig that we saw in the preview. The screaming's a little unsettling. Same with the sharp teeth. I mean, fair enough. One minute you're like, we're gonna do training like I'm used to, and the next thing you know, you're stuck in a dollhouse being attacked by a stuffed pig. Literally, the power of love. All right then. So this really is just a trial by fire situation. It's true. Yes, how do you unlock the Fullbringer? So the pig talks. You abducted somebody? She abducted and threatened him? I got a bad feeling about this girl. So they don't really know what they're doing? Because if they like have always just sort of known instinctually how to use their Fullbringer, like their ability, then they probably don't know what to do to like train somebody to figure out if they have any kind of ability like that. Yeah, does he need like an object? I guess he does need an object to channel it through because the whole point is you're aware of like the soul of an object. Is he gonna use the like badge pendant thing from being a Soul Reaper? Is that what he's gonna use? So he's like helping out, getting groceries. See, and like Seto seems to know a lot about like what's going on. I mean, I assume like if Seto has something that he's connected to, Fullbringer to, it's probably his necklace, like the coin. Because that was like his grandfather's, right? That's what I was saying. Crazy beast mode seems like a bad thing. What are we doing to the poor citizen that we abducted? Well, it has glowing eyes now, which is a good thing. They all seem rather chill about it, except for like Sendo. Except now they seem maybe a little bit worried. Now the timer's up. Did he have something to do with the person we abducted? Because they're talking about the timer being up, and in the opener he has like, it looks like almost like a clock, like numbers around him. So does his ability have something to do with like the pocket watch that we've seen him with? If it's connected, if the Fullbringer's connected to an object of importance to the person? So if he survives, he can just get out anyway? That's good. God of time. Flame of time seems bad. Everybody's just gonna like, that's the way it be. See the pocket watch. So they can't just like take Ichigo out. He has to like survive. Ichigo has to survive long enough to get out of the box. True. Messing with time always has lots of consequences. Ripple effects. So they're gonna have to just like sit back and wait. It does make me wonder how long Seto has been involved though, because if he doesn't know um Kiryu, is that his name? If he doesn't know the time guy's ability, like he hasn't seen it used before, that makes me think that he hasn't been around that long. or at least not around in a situation where like they would be needing to use their abilities in any kind of like combat or anything like that. You gotta find the soul. I don't know, probably has something to do with the power of love. It seems to be the go-to. Oh. Okay, so his is a Fullbringer then. It's just he uses like his physical body as like the object to channel through, as opposed to like something separate from him. I would have thought it was definitely the coin, but that seems to be like that's why he has kind of the armor. That's true though. Also with Orihime though, hers are the hair clips, which are obviously she has a lot of connection to because her brother gave them to her. So she's channeling through them. Interesting. So there is a connection between those two abilities and this Fullbringer. Got the black and red happening again. Interesting. I do want to see kind of how it, like, the shape of his Fullbringer, like what exactly it will manifest as, and like what the theme of it is. I'll be interested in how they bring Orihime into the story. Because hers does also seem to be a Fullbringer situation. Which obviously they already hinted at, but like it seems also different because it's not her like manifesting an object or an energy. Like her ability has like distinct personalities with the different like entities that represent like different parts of her ability. So hers does seem to still be a bit of an outlier, unless we meet someone else who has a Fullbringer that functions like that. But oh, the character from the opener, book guy. Yeah, he's a high school student, so don't be weird. So at least now we have confirmed that at least Seto definitely has this Fullbringer thing with, like, that's like how his power like manifests itself. I'm pretty sure that that's gonna be what Odahime's is too, considering that her ability has always been connected to the hairpins, which if we're saying like it's something, it's an object or something that you have some kind of strong feeling or affinity towards, her hairpins were a gift from her brother, so I'm assuming that that's gonna be her kind of Fullbringer is gonna be through those pins and like her need to protect and help her friends. I'm very excited to see what Ichigo's is going to be. I'm really not sure from like badge thing, like the combat pass, like exactly how that'll manifest in terms of like what it'll look like in terms of like the design and stuff like that, or like what it exactly it's gonna be, because if it's gonna be like a manifestation of Ichigo's need to like protect people or like his pride in being able to protect people as it was described, I don't know how that'll like show itself in terms of like the symbolism of the ability. Maybe it won't have like a specific connection to that, like I don't know, I'm guessing it probably does, because Bleach always likes to be a little bit more thoughtful in design, especially with like weapons and abilities and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that it's gonna have something connected to like his need to protect people or to be able to face danger on behalf of people, because that's always been a huge part of who Ichigo is. I'm glad that he's like getting more back to himself in that regard. I feel like even if he didn't have his abilities anymore, like the fact that he just felt helpless with his friends being attacked kind of made him feel like he couldn't do anything for them. Like he was just sort of, he was better off like not getting involved. Like I felt like he was kind of isolating himself. And so I feel like getting a new ability is kind of him badly coping with that situation. I feel like maybe he should find a way of being able to protect and help his friends that doesn't involve him needing to rely on like some kind of special ability. But whether or not that'll actually happen with him, I don't know. He's a shonen protagonist. He's got to have some kind of cool ability for us to use. But I do like that we're like completely resetting that. I feel like one of the biggest problems with shonens is that the power-up issue, which like basically every shonen has, where like at a certain point you can only escalate the power to so much before it gets completely ridiculous in like what the characters are able to do. You know, for a show like Dragon Ball, which like honestly I love watching Dragon Ball, but it's a show where I can like turn off my brain and just like watch cool fights and weird things happen, and like I'm expecting it to be a little bit ridiculous, honestly. Whereas like Bleach has its funny moments, has its comedic moments, but never connected to the conflict. I mean, sometimes it has like weird comedic moments in the middle of a fight, but like the conflicts themselves have always been really important. Like they always have like a really emotional resonance to them. I feel like the fights in the show are some of my favorites, not because of like the fights and abilities in and of themselves, though I do enjoy that part of it, but also just the fact that we always get to learn something important about the characters that are involved in the conflict. There's always some kind of backstory or some kind of motivation or something about them that we learn about because they're choosing to fight this particular fight. I feel like Bleach would have really suffered if we just like kept escalating the power ability of Ichigo to the point where like he had like god tier abilities where he's like just supposed to be some kid who ended up getting caught up in all of the craziness that was been going on. I like that we've kind of completely reset it and he has something new and he has to figure out how to use that because he's like starting from scratch again. I actually kind of appreciate that and I'm excited to kind of see what this ability involves. It reminds me a lot of what happens in Hunter x Hunter with all of that. I won't go into details about it because like if you haven't seen Hunter x Hunter you should go watch it and I don't want to give away how the magic system works, but it does remind me a little bit of how that particular magic system works. There's a few, but if you know what I'm thinking of, you know what I'm thinking of. And so, probably Hunter x Hunter took some kind of inspiration from other shonen, so I don't know if there's a connection to Bleach directly with that one, but you know, I just like that we're kind of reinventing. You know, Hunter x Hunter does the same thing where like each kind of arc there's something new that Gon and the other characters have to figure out how to use, and they kind of have to adapt to the situation that they're in and figure out a new skill set that fits with the situation that they're in. So I like that Ichigo has to like start from square one again, and it cancels out the whole level up issue that a lot of longer running anime has, especially if like you have magic introduced with it. I'm very excited to see what Ichigo's ability ends up manifesting itself in, how he ends up using it in his own unique way. Ichigo's always kind of gone by the seat of his pants when he's trying to figure this kind of stuff out, and I feel like he always kind of has his own unique angle to how he fights and how he decides to like figure out the magic system. So I'm excited to kind of see where his is at and the other characters. I like the time related power. I think that that's really cool. We still have to figure out what the gamer and the other woman that is with them, what their specialties are. I like getting to see all of these other sides. It looks like we might be getting into Orihime's contribution to this whole story. I'd like to see how she gets connected back in to what's happening in terms of like her abilities and how they're related to Fullbringer and all of that. But mixture of things. Excited about the powers. Still kind of feel like parts of it are convoluted and don't make sense to me, but maybe it'll all get explained later. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you don't miss the next time I post a Bleach video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!